Hey guys, Tim here today from behind the camera, taking a look at the Fractal Design Focus G. Obviously it's a red case, but it comes in more than just red. This is the Mystic Red. It also comes in black and white, blue, a petrol blue, which is like a darker blue, and gunmetal gray. And I've seen the petrol blue and the gunmetal gray and they look really good. First thing to note is there is just a very slight color difference between the paint and the plastic. This is super hard. It's hard to paint the plastic and have it be durable enough to, be a mass market product. And it's really close. It's even less when you get it under like normal lights, but in here we're underneath a couple of huge LED panels. So it looks really good. That's one of the harder things to do with these kind of cases, is getting that color match right. Around the front, we have your 2 5 1/4 bays. On the back, there is a very slight bump out. And then when we come around the back, we have all of the typical I/O, 7 PCIe slots or expansion slots, a small ventilation area, a 120 millimeter fan location, and your power supply cutout. All of the thumb screws are captive. On the side, you get the monster reflector. The side panel window. It does have a slight little flare out on the top. I think it kind of looks pretty slick, honestly. And then of course on the front panel, your intakes are here with your two 120 white LED fans. So we'll take a look at those once we get a system built in here. But first, let's take a look at the insides and the top and see what we got going on. So here's your side panel, and very stiff for that big of a piece of plastic, to be honest with you. The metal isn't super thick, but everything's got rolled edges. I'm not going to slice my hands open like I feel like with some more value-oriented cases. So good job on the side panel. Okay, now that we got the side panel open, you'll see you have your 2 5 1/4 bays, not toolless. Your two Silent Series LL white LED fans. These can be upgraded to 140s. If you do want to use 140s and a 280 millimeter radiator, you will not be able to use the bottom 5 1/4 bay because it's actually cut up here to allow for a little extra room. Of course, if you want to go big, you're going to have to take out your 3.5, 2.5 drive cage. It does come with toolless adapters that you will have to screw in for the 2.5s, but nice and toolless, and anti-vibration for the 3.5. We do have no grommets in this case. Of course, same as the toolless. If you're going to make a case with this much value, you're going to have to reduce your manufacturing costs somewhere. I did notice though that these grommet, or I guess the grommetless pass-throughs, are actually, there's a little bevel inside the case. So you're going to get a little bit extra room there because of that to hide your cables. If you want to put in the optional bottom fan, you will have to remove the drive cage. It is a 120 mount. There's a 120 in the back, two 120s in the top, and of course the two 120s or two 140s in the front. Of course, the case can support ITX, MATX, or ATX. It does have the pre-installed center post, but you're going to have to install the rest of the standoffs depending on what you need. There's your 7 expansion bays in the back. It can support up to a 230 millimeter power supply and a 380 millimeter graphics card. But if you do populate the bottom rows, you are going to have some clearance issues with the bay. So here is the front panel. It of course does have that mesh and the typical foam that Fractal likes to use. This is going to be one of those though, if you want to clean it, you're going to have to kind of get in there and get the little tabs flipped out, but it'll do you. And then of course around the front here are those two LED fans. As you can see, you got the bigger spaces for the 140s if you want them. I think this is a really nice touch. It makes the case look really nice. I had one plugged in already. And then around the back, we'll get the side panel off here. So around the back, I wouldn't call it ample space, but there is enough space here to do a decent job of cable management. You know, you have the space up front if you need to tuck some extra long cables. You still have, you know, plenty of little spots to zip tie or Velcro and hide and tuck things away cleanly. One thing I do really like is the oversized 8-pin. I really like that in cases now. And it's in the middle, so good on you. Other thing to mention here is there is a 2.5 in the bottom here. You can put an SSD or a 2.5 mechanical drive. Just remember, you're gonna have to screw that in from the other side, and then your power supply is gonna block the screws. So you may have to loosen your power supply if you ever need to get that SSD out of there. So to wrap up our case tour, let's take a look at the top here. We have your front panel I/O. So you have power, reset, hard drive LED, headphone, microphone, USB 2.0 and USB 3.0. I might not have mentioned it earlier, but you do have the ability for 2 140 fans on the top or 2 120. And there is a filter on the inside. It's a fine mesh and it's held in by the screws, which you would attach that to your fans if you wanted to. So let's take a look at what it looks like to build inside this system. Okay guys, so here's a look at the build in the system. It has a GTX 970, 3770K, just a nice ROG board that I had that I felt matched this case. Of course, 500 watt Fractal Design power supply. And I gave myself kind of the hard challenge of what would it be like to build in this case with a power supply that isn't modular? Because honestly, if you're looking at this case, you're likely trying to do a value build, because I think this is a great case for value builds. But what you do sacrifice is cable management. So it's not bad. The side panel does fit on without flexing. I do kind of gotta lay in the cables nicely. I already have found that if you don't have a flat connector coming in to this SSD, that it's kind of a problem area. I will just Velcro that on like I was planning to do anyways. The only thing I will say for the cables on the case, other than it would be nice to see just a little bit more room in the back and some more punch downs for cable management, just, you know, some of those loop throughs so that you could put some Velcro or some more cable ties, is that it'd be really nice if the audio connector was longer, because man, I didn't think it was gonna fit for a little while. This, just take your time. I think it looks, you know, from the back, nobody's gonna see it anyways. There's no window on the back of your case. And from the inside, I think it is a perfectly acceptable build. I did have to tuck some cables down below down here. I don't use many mechanical hard drives anyways. And then, you know, getting the cables up to the motherboard, I think it looks perfectly good. Honestly, this is going to be my LAN build. So if you want to come see it, you're at PDX LAN down in Portland in November, drop by, say hello, and you'll be able to check out this system. It'll have a CPU cooler by then, I promise. But guys, let's go over real quick pros and cons. So let's start with cons. Realistically, the only con I have is the cable management. You know, it's what you expect on a case that isn't super deep. It doesn't have that super, you know, thick back channel. You're gonna deal with some of this, you know, like where do I put the cables? How do I fold them in so you can't see them? It would be kind of nice if the case had kind of bumped out a little to give you, you know, some cable management over here, so that would be hidden. But because this is open, it's real hard to keep everything neat and, you know, people not be able to see it. Other than that, really, the length of the audio cable, and I wish they would have put, you know, I applaud them for hiding a 2.5, back here, but I already had to take this out once because of how the plugs lined up on this power supply. So your mileage may vary. You know, your power supply has a straight end on one end, you'd be totally fine. But I did have it flipped around thinking I could, you know, like sneak the cables in the backside somehow. Not gonna work. You're gonna have to face it that way. It's just what it is. Like I said, it is nice to have that spot for the SSD, especially if you want two mechanical hard drives. Let's go to the pros though. So first of all, the case is extremely high quality. I'm actually very pleased. Like, building in it was super easy. It's straight, it's solid, everything's rolled edges. You know, it was just a very easy build until the cable management. It's the first motherboard in a long time that I've put the motherboard down in the case and all the holes lined up perfectly. Putting, you know, the back panel IO shield in was a breeze, like not fighting it at all. Like, everything was super easy. You know, when you started cabling, I see why there's no grommets on these holes now, honestly. You know, earlier I said I wish they had them. It would not work at all. You would lose all the space that you needed to get through with the thickness of the grommet. They are a little tight getting through, especially the 24 pin. But other than that, you know, it's a pleasure of a case to work in. Honestly, it's you know, for the price, extremely high quality. It's gonna be, you know, stable. It's gonna hold up. I do like the red color. The dark blue is also a very nice color. But even, you know, if you pick this case up in black or white, it's going to be a very solid case that's going to last you a long time, which is not something you can say about many cases in this price range.